I don't believe I'm totally in favor of the fee. If we're going to define a fee as a specific service that you pay for, then we need to stop every truck that comes into Highland and charge them a fee to go down our roads. However, we do need some money to do that. What has been happening to all of our money is it wasn't handled very good 8 years ago. Through that process, we spent a lot of money, and I don't know that any of you are aloof to the idea that we build a lot of things that we bought on credit. However, those specific services ought to be treated first. If you have roads, you've got to maintain them. I asked one individual that he had heard the threat that they were all going to turn to dirt. He says, well, I can drive on dirt as easy as I can keep paying more money and not getting much different service. We have to be very specific about what we're going to do with funds that are for those specific identified services that we've already labeled as probably the same for all of us, and the things that we're really required to do as a city this size. Now, we have a couple of big thoroughfares that run through it or maintained by others, and they'd like to give some of those back to us too. But the reality of it is we just need to make sure we take care of the essential things that make our lives good.
The record is very clear in terms of my stand on budget reductions. As a member of the City Council, we've gone through the budget very, very thoroughly, or at least I have. Some members of the council have not. And there are opportunities to reduce that budget, and there are opportunities to fund maintenance of the roads. So that's where we ought to go first. Now, if we prioritize and if we look at the roads and find that that's not enough, then we can look at a road fee or a road tax. But we have not done the difficult part, and that is expense reduction. It's real easy for a city council to raise taxes. That's the easy decision. The hard decision is in reducing expenses. That's the tough one. And so far, we have a 3-2 council that is unwilling to make those tough decisions. And as a business executive, I've had to go through that on many, many occasions. It is never fun to have to reduce budget expenditures. But it can be done, and you can provide input to that. The city employees can provide input to that, as they are very close to what we should be doing and how we can do it better. So I would be soliciting your input and employee input from the city staff.
I think I'm actually very uniquely qualified for this one, since I spent 9 years running and operating one of the largest road construction companies in the western United States, and I've dealt with everybody from California to Las Vegas. And I'm here to tell you that I don't buy what's being sold to us, because the numbers I'm seeing is anywhere from $4 to $20 million to repair our roads. But I could pull an engineer and have an engineer tell me whatever I want, because engineers are paid to repair roads, not to just give you an opinion. I don't feel that I was given a complete story, both sides of the picture, on where the road conditions actually stand, as I drive the roads and I look at the roads. And I hear the city council say they saved $50 a year on property tax, but then they hit $15 in another tax a day, a month. I don't care if they're taking it from my wallet or my dresser, it's still my money. If the roads need to be repaired, we need to address it. But as I said, when you do asphalt in a 100-degree temperature, and the optimum temperature to lay asphalt is 70 degrees, that road's going to need repaired a year later anyway. So the people repairing the roads in the state of Utah are doing it to make money and to have a continual job opportunity. Roads can be fixed a lot cheaper than what we're being told, and that's one of the things I'll do, is I'll actually look at it and explain to you both sides of the picture, the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and let you decide where you want your money spent, because it's not my money.
Just knock somebody down.
The financial dilemma that we're faced with is extremely difficult. certainly we can reduce expenses. If you look at the change in budget over the last couple of years, there was a lot of heat generated, but not much cut in budget. I'm not going to talk about the root cause of that, but what I am going to talk about is what level of service do you want? When you say, I don't want any more tax increases, then we have the mechanism of a truth in taxation hearing where you can say, no, I don't want any more taxes. Whatever the consequences are, as residents, you will live with that. I will live with that. What I believe is that we still are trying to balance the budget by sales tax revenue, by contributions from property taxes. And what would be better for us than an increase in the value of our property, which would increase our opportunity to attract additional folks to come here and build. 8 years ago, money was flowing freely. We thought there was no end to it. Well, there was. Now we're paying, and we have to be careful.
To begin with, let me just mention that I firmly believe that we need to spend money to repair and rebuild our roads. Many of the areas are deteriorating quickly, and unless we start repairing them, the cost is only going to escalate. When I look at the sources of funding for those repairs, I think there's 3 different sources that I would consider, and I'll list them in order of how I think they should be implemented. First of all, during the height of the building boom, Highland was acquiring open space at a significant rate. In fact, they incurred a significant amount of debt to acquire a lot of that open space and have no money to improve that property. I think we need to carefully look at the surplus open space and start liquidating some of that to generate a significant amount of cash. In fact, that could be easily used to fund most of the repairs, if not all of them, and not have an impact on property taxes or sales tax. The next funding source would be property tax. I consider that better than a fee because that would be tax deductible on your tax returns, and the federal government subsidizes that. The worst case scenario is a fee because that's non-deductible and it's just out of your pocket. I personally think, again, that there's plenty of money available through surplus property. And if I'm elected to the city council, I'll diligently look and encourage the city to determine what property we really need and make sure that it's used effectively, and if not, to liquidate it so that we can fund the road repairs that way.
I agree with Ed here, mostly. I think if we have assets and we can liquidate them, that's good. I think timing on the liquidation is important to consider. Property values are rising or falling. You don't want to buy, you don't want to sell in a down market necessarily. But our property taxes are going up, so our property values are going up. With respect to the fee, the states put us in a tough situation here because they have a truth in taxation process that requires us to go through an extensive process to implement new taxes and change them. Yes, the fee is not tax deductible, and I appreciate property tax deductions. On the other hand, a fee can be turned off, can be turned on at any time by the city council. It's open and transparent. You see it every month. And for that reason, I am not opposed to the fee because it's going to be a monthly reminder to us about budget priorities. And if we don't like that $15 a month that we're paying every month, then we're going to put pressure on our city council to cut things that we otherwise might not have the impetus and desire to cut because of we don't think it's popular. But I would like to put that on you, and I think a fee does that in a very fair and equitable way, in a transparent way. So I'm not opposed to the fee. I do think we need to spend money on roads. Another concern I have is that we have $0 in our capital improvement fund now. And I think it's foolish to do that. We need to save it.
Tim, I might be one of those engineers you were talking about. However, I'm a very stingy engineer. And I think we can do what Alpine's doing, maintain roads within the current budget. The sources I have show that, and kudos to the current council, the reserve fund has been building from about $1 million to about $4 million. I think we could take some of that money. I'm not saying all of it, but some of that money, maybe $200,000, add it to the current road maintenance plan. Stretch out the plans a little bit, maybe pay off the current bond that's coming due in 2022, I believe. And once that's paid off, we'll have about $500,000 we could dedicate toward road repair. I think it's doable. I think we need to look at it closely. I mentioned polls before. I'd like to take a real quick instant poll. How many of you support or do not support the $180 fee going on your current bill? No. Okay. I guess that means the rest of you do. So it'd be interesting to know how the majority of the townspeople felt about that. I thought it was interesting that I think it'd be prudent for the council to wait before adding a fee on your monthly bill until finding out the results of this fall's election.